I sort of cringe when I see videos that are entitled "The 5 Stocks That Will Make You Rich" or "The 3 ETFs That Will Make You Rich." And usually or frequently these videos have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of views, and they've gone viral. The reality is these 5 stocks that will make you rich might make you poor in the next year. And the same is true with those ETFs. That's not what you're going to find here. But in this video, I do want to share with you 5 things that really and truly will help you get rich. These are things that I've learned over the past 40 plus years as I've been investing. And I want to share these things here with you. They're probably not things that you're going to hear on other channels or in other places. So let me get started. The very first thing that you can do or strategy that you can use to really get rich is what I call capital stacking. When you capital stack, you stack several benefits from the same capital. Usually investing is done for a primary purchase, such as growth, which some people call capital gains, or maybe for income. Those are the 2 primary reasons that investors invest. For example, someone may invest in growth stocks, though, that pay no dividend with a goal of capital gains. That would be someone that is just investing that capital for a primary purpose, really, and that's their only purpose. That's all they really care about. Or someone may invest in a dividend stock portfolio that's yielding 4%, but they don't really care about whether or not there are any gains in the underlying stocks, or at least they think they don't care if there are any gains in the underlying stocks until we go through a serious bear market. But I digress. Let me get back. But I get it. It's easy to say, okay, if I have 4% income from these stocks, that's all I need. I can take that, and I can take my Social Security or other income streams, and I can pay for my lifestyle expenses. That's the way that a lot of people think, and there's really probably nothing wrong with that for someone that has already reached their financial goals. Just imagine how much you can amplify your wealth building efforts, though, when you get more than one benefit from the same capital. In my program, How to Retire When You Want and Fund Your Desired Lifestyle, I call these triple and quadruple wealth builders. I explain in there that some strategies can even have up to 8 benefits for the same capital. I'll put a link to this program in the description and in the comments section in case you're interested. Now let me get back to the benefits. The benefits can come primarily from income, from capital gains, or from tax benefits. An example of stacked income on stocks might be selling long-term, out-of-the-money covered calls on dividend stocks. If this is done on stocks that increase in value while you own them inside of a tax-free account, you've got 4 benefits right there stacked from this one use of capital. Okay, so you've got the income from the dividends, you've got the income from the covered calls, you've got the capital gains from the stocks, and then you've also got the tax benefit from having those gains, having that money, that income inside of a tax-free account. That's the very first and really one of my favorite ways to build wealth. One way that you really and truly can get rich. Okay. The next way that you can get rich, this is really a focus, and this one I'm going to warn you, it sounds kind of crazy. It's to buy assets that have a high probability of going up in price. I know this sounds silly, but over and over I see the emphasis on choosing the right stock, those 5 stocks that are going to make you rich, or an emphasis on choosing the right fund, or even choosing the right asset allocation, instead of focusing on the asset class that's going to go up over the next few months or years. The focus instead is on the individual security instead of the asset class. And that's how investing is sort of taught and promoted in the media. Most individual securities within an asset class move with that overall asset class. So most stocks move with the overall stock market, for example. Pretty basic. Asset classes as a whole can have a high probability of movement based on either their valuation or technical analysis. For example, if valuations are very low and the fundamentals are still sound, there's a high probability that the asset class will move back toward the median price. It's got to go up to do that over the next few months or years. Valuations can be a little tricky as a way to select securities because valuations can be out of control for years and the market can keep racing up, disregarding valuations. But as a general rule, assets are going to gravitate back toward their median price eventually. Technical analysis has also proven to increase the probability of asset class movement. So you've got the first one I talked about was using valuations. If valuations are very low, there's a higher probability they're going to move back up. If everything else about that asset class is sound and makes sense and works, or that security, everything about that stock is still in place. Okay, so there's valuations to consider, but then there's also technical analysis. And it has definitely proven itself to increase the probability of asset class movements. That's why most financial advisors, institutions, the smart money use technical analysis, sometimes just technical analysis, and sometimes in addition to fundamental analysis. Now, investors are not taught to think in this way. They're not taught to think, I'm going to buy the asset class that I think is going to go up. They're sort of dissuaded from really thinking that because they're taught that they can't figure it out. If anything, they are taught to think about the right asset allocation or maybe finding the right stocks. It sounds incredibly basic, but it's, again, usually overlooked to simply focus on buying the asset class that has a high probability of increasing in price over the next few months or years. Sounds crazy? So simple, so basic, but rare, seriously. Okay, the third strategy to get rich is to consider macroeconomic factors when you're investing. What makes the overall asset class that I referenced in number 2 previously go up or down when we talked about those asset classes, going up or down, investing in the asset class that's going to go up? Okay, what makes that happen? It's macroeconomic factors. Not considering macroeconomic factors when investing is like driving at night without headlights. Macroeconomic factors are the fuel that drive investment returns. For example, as a general rule, economic growth fuels the stock market. While stocks can become disconnected from this core principle at times, like I was talking about, sometimes the market just goes crazy and it keeps going up for no really good reason other than it's just going up and everybody's got to get in the market. It is a fundamental principle of investing that economic growth should and usually does fuel stock market growth. Another example of a macroeconomic that you'll want to consider in investing is when interest rates go down, the price of bonds go up. These are basic macroeconomic principles that directly affect whether an asset class will increase or decrease in the near future. And remember, you're going after the asset class that has a high probability of increasing in price in the next few months or years. Okay, the fourth strategy to get rich is to be realistic about what you will really get from an investment when you're evaluating it or when you own it. When you own it, look at it and be really realistic about what you're really getting from an investment. It's so easy to get excited about the yield that you will get from an investment. Remember, here on my channel, I frequently speak in terms of yield being the income that you will get from an investment versus a capital gain that has the potential growth, that it is really potential growth that you might get from an investment. So yield is something that is a stated income, or a given income, like a dividend yield or interest on bonds. So referencing the yield, for example, look beyond the stated yield. Instead, think in terms of after inflation and after tax yield. When you do this, often you'll find the yield is close to negative or even actually negative after taxes and inflation are considered. This is very common. You can't get rich or even generate real income from an investment that has a negative yield. So in order to get rich, we've got to be realistic about the yield that our investments are paying us. Here's another example about being realistic about investment returns. A lot of people throw out that they get 7 or maybe 10% a year from their stocks because that's what the average annualized stock market return has been over certain time frames, over long time frames. Even influencer Dave Ramsey does this. He throws out the 7, I think he says 10% at least, annual return from stocks. The fact is that stocks have both positive and negative returns from year to year. That is a fact. And they vary from year to year. Often they vary widely from year to year. That's the fact. They don't give us 10% a year. As investors, that's just not what we get. We don't get those long-term averages from year to year. Instead, we get the returns that are produced based on those macroeconomic factors during the time frame our investments are held. Okay. The next strategy that you can use to get rich is to think in terms of after-tax dollars in the use of your money. This can have a huge impact. For example, let's say you're still working, you're maybe employed, or maybe you own your own business, and you're going to invest $50,000 in the stock market, maybe a fund or a portfolio, but the $50,000 investment actually cost $64,103 of earned income. Now, let me tell you how I got that. That's just making an assumption that you're in the 22% federal income tax bracket. That rate, that is the rate you're paying, 22%. And if that's the case, then it took you $64,103 of earned income to come up with that $50,000 you're going to put in that investment. It's likely, though, that you also pay state income taxes as well, depending on where you live. I'm in Texas. We don't have state income taxes here, but most states do. A lot of states have really high income taxes, but let's just assume that you've got a state tax rate of 5%. Then those stocks, that $50,000 stock investment, really costs $68,493 of earned income. This is why it can feel like, where did my money go? I made all this money, I made this salary, but I don't have that much money saved. And this is a lot of the reason why it's so hard to save money. Now, there's one more thing we need to add in, and that's Social Security of 6.2% that's deducted from your paycheck. Now we've got 22% plus 5% plus 6%, totaling 33% that's going toward taxes and or Social Security from the money that you earned. So let's divide the $50,000 stock investment, that stock purchase you wanted to make, by 0.67, and that's 100% minus 33%. That makes the $50,000 investment more like almost $75,000 of earned income. So this explains why it's hard to save money, but when you start thinking and having an awareness of this, when you make investments, when you make decisions about how to fund your investment accounts and how to best use your money and your skills to build wealth and become rich, then this can be really helpful. Remember, retire certain.